Welcome back to another podcast of Heal Without Harm. My name is Dr. Clayton Dir, physical therapist and the one bringing you the truth about the medical system. My goal of today's episode is to expose you to some basics around nutrition. And if you want more information, go check out my episode, All with a Nutrition Coach. I will link it down below if you're on Spotify. If you're on Apple, then you may have to type in some like nutrition coach, Heal Without Harm, and you can go find it. I want to bring this up as it is part 2 of our 4-part series on the 4 pillars of health. The 4 pillars, at least in this reference, is going to be exercise, nutrition, hydration, and sleep. I want all of these to have some tangible takeaways. So as you listen through this whole podcast, all you have to do is keep track of 1 or 2 things that feel tactical and they feel very tangible and they feel like you can implement that fairly easy and get a big ROI. I'm going to take you through ultimately what I've done in this past week as we got into the New Year's. As with friends of mine, we do a 75 soft, essentially a spinoff of the 75 hard. And on that is to stick to a diet of some sort. Now, the word diet doesn't always have to be like classic diet sodas kind of thing. It's just the food that you choose to eat. I'm creating some structure and I'm following it. So what I am following is I looked at numerous different calculators online to find like a calorie calculator, like about how many calories should I eat each day based on my height, weight, body composition, so like muscle mass to fat ratio, and then how active I am. And I tell it I want to lose this much weight, or I want to stay at the same weight, or I want to gain weight. And then it'll predict ballpark how many calories I'll eat. This is the way I like to start, so I know about how much food I can or should eat each day. The second thing I will follow, and this is what I do, and this is what I recommend to all my clients as a basis. And then anytime they want to go into more detailed structure, I will ultimately refer them on to a nutrition coach. But my second step is I will look at my weight and then I will look at my ideal weight. So when I started this, I weigh 190. My ideal weight is probably 170 to 175 is kind of my goal. So then I will take that 175 number and I want to eat that many grams of protein per day. The reason for this is I want to have the best chance possible of still gaining muscle if possible, but if anything, just maintaining every ounce of muscle that I have so that as the weight comes off, most of it is going to be fat storage or fat cells that are shrinking. So I'm not losing any muscle mass or very, very little muscle mass. That is very, very hard for me and for a lot of people, especially if you're trying to stay low calorie. So if I'm trying to eat, I think my calories are set right now around 1900 calories. It's hard to hit 1900 calories and still hit 165, 170 grams of protein without eating essentially straight chicken and tuna all day, every day. I totally get it. So what I do is I look at about 70% is usually the gold standard for the average person to gain muscle mass or even just hold it. Up to 1.0 or more grams per pound of body weight can really help things, but it's so challenging that my goal is for people to hit about 70%. I would say for your average female who's a little bit more petite size, I would say 50% is probably totally fine. And so if you are let's say 130 pound person, most of the time that light of a person is going to be female, but 130 pounds, I would say as long as you're hitting 70 grams of protein per day, you'll probably be really solid, but I still ask and shoot for 100. The other benefit of eating more protein is you're going to feel more satiated. So meaning you're going to feel more full. So cravings and things like that will be much less between meals as long as you're spacing that out throughout the day. And then also blood sugar control is going to be another huge one. Ultimately, it'll stabilize more. Also, the reason I like focusing on protein is mentally it's a lot easier to focus on what you are going to eat as opposed to suffering through what you are not going to eat. So when you start to have elimination, you feel like you're missing out on stuff. As opposed to setting goals of what you want to eat, it makes it much more challenging and fun and feeling doable because you're going to be aiming for a protein source as opposed to trying to dodge a carb or fat source type of thing. So you start looking at, okay, well, if I need to eat 120 grams of protein per day and I'm going to eat 3 meals, that means I need to have 40 grams of protein per meal. How much is 40 grams of protein? I know generally 4 ounces of chicken is going to be about 30 grams. So maybe 4 or 5 ounces is what you're going to be eating, or 4 ounces. And then you just make sure that the other foods that you're eating with that meal have a little bit of protein in it. If you start doing things like sweet potatoes, those have low levels of protein in it. You do peas, those have a little bit more, I think 6 grams per serving or something like that. So you start looking at this stuff and it adds up kind of quick as long as you make some good choices. The last thing that I have myself and other people focus on is fiber. Fiber is, you have soluble and insoluble, but ultimately this is the stuff that feeds the colon, the lower intestines. This is what helps grow or promote good bacteria in your colon and keep your colon clean and happy and help really fight off colon cancers and any sort of constipation or diarrhea. It really helps your GI tract stay in check. When we start talking about ultra processed foods and packaged items and very, very convenient foods, they're generally going to be non-satiating, meaning they leave you hungry. They're going to be high calorie and they're going to be very, very low fiber. And so you're eating this thing that doesn't even fill you up, that is 2, 3, 4 times as calorie dense as other foods. And it ultimately, makes you eat much more food, and it doesn't feed your GI tract in a good way, ultimately. And so if you're having some sort of GI issues or you just feel like you can't stop eating all the time, you're probably not eating very nutrient dense foods, is what I find. And so I just want to review this real quick. I found the amount of calories that I should be eating to either gain, maintain, or lose weight. Then I go to my body weight and my ideal body weight. And so if I'm shooting for 170 grams of protein, I know that's not very feasible and I don't need to be hitting that high of a number right now. So I drop that down to about 70%. And so 70% of 170 is going to be 120 grams. Most of the time lately, I've been hitting about 140, 150. And so I'm hitting right in between those two. I'm very satisfied with that. The third thing I'm aiming for is fiber. And so I would recommend most people eating 20 to 30 grams of fiber per day. If you were to only take this advice, go find your calorie count, go find your protein amount, and then aim for 20 to 30 grams of fiber. You do that every single day. You are going to be mind blown at the results. What's nice is I can give you those 3 pillars and you can go pick whatever foods you want for the most part. For the most part, you can go pick whatever foods you want as long as it meets those 3 things, or at least 2 of them. You just hit protein and calories. You are going to slowly develop the body that you're wanting. You'll feel different within the first week. You'll start to look different in the first month. And you're going to slowly build the body that you're looking for, especially if you supplement it with everything I talked about in part 1 of building a good exercise program and building the strength that you're looking for. I'm also open to all these other type of diets of like keto or this or that, but those are usually not very sustainable. What I like about calories, protein, and fiber is it creates guardrails. It makes it to where it's like pretty much whatever you want, make it however you want, but make it fit those molds and to where you can eat carbs, you can eat fat, you can eat protein, you can eat all of it. You don't have to cut anything out, but you just have to stay within the limits. And then every now and then you eat a cookie, you eat a bowl of cereal, you eat whatever it may be. It's like, cool. One bad meal is not going to do much. One bad meal every single day, that's 33% of your diet. Like you're going to start going off of you're going to start going off track from your goals ultimately. And so I think I want to leave you with one other little story that hopefully helps you get through the first couple of weeks of a diet, or a diet change, maybe I should say. Whenever I go on a cruise, I will usually go for like 5 to 7 days. And I will eat pretty much whatever I want, as much as I want on those cruises. And I will gain a matter of 2 to 6 pounds on that cruise. When I come back, I go back to my normal eating, and within about 3 days, my weight goes back down to what it was. And the reason that is when you are eating all of that food, your body is questioning whether or not this is permanent. Your body is trying to stay in homeostasis, and it's noticing that there's a huge influx on food that's coming in. So all of your cells, this is a very generalization, all of your cells are relatively swollen. They're very, very full, and they're wondering, is this our new normal or not? Then when you come home, you go back to eating normal, they realize like, oh, that was temporary, and it lets go kind of all the weight. You didn't truly create a bunch of fat stored in that time. You were just holding on to all this before your body lets it pass. The exact opposite of this is true. So when you diet for 1 week, you may see the scale come down, but ultimately, instead of those cells swelling like they did when you were on the cruise or when you were eating like crazy for a week, your cells are relatively shrinking, and they're questioning, is this the new normal? So if you go 1 week and you notice little to no change, and then you give up, then you can expect to go right back where you were. But if you can eat well for 2 weeks, finally start to notice actual changes as your body realizes this is the new normal, then you can start to stack the wins over the long term. And so I encourage you to take the advice that I provided today and implement it in your life, and then also message me and tell me how it goes. If you can stick with this for, like I said, 2 or 3 weeks, you'll start to feel different. If you stick with it for a month or more, you'll start to look a little bit different. You'll get some momentum, and then you can continue building from there. If you have any deeper questions, then please reference back to our nutrition coach episode. It was maybe 3 to 6 months ago. If you scroll down the podcast feed, you should be able to find it. If you have any questions in particular, if you need some sort of a template or need me to write stuff down, or even if you want a free consult with our nutrition coach, please send me a DM on Instagram. I will put the link to my Instagram below, and you can reach out to there. Other than that, I hope you have a great rest of the day. I hope this is helpful for you, and our next episode will be either sleep or it will be over hydration. I'm not sure quite yet, but this was part 2 of a part 4 series on the 4 pillars. If you could please, if you know someone that would benefit from listening to this episode, send this over to them or just simply share it on your story on the social medias. I will share it back with a huge appreciation. Thank you so much, and I hope today you learned a little bit more how to heal without harm.